Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie, and today we're going to be doing, I won't call it a debunking, it's not like the last one I did. This is going to be more of a mixed bag, because the person I'm reviewing today, this was actually at the request of one of my viewers, it's their wish being granted, so there we are. So I don't have a particular beef against this person. There are some bits of the video I'm going to talk about which are perfectly fine, and I don't want to do like one of those reaction videos that completely steals the original video. So I'm going to cut large chunks out because they're absolutely fine. I'll just give a brief summary of the sorts of things being said. Just say, you know, nothing wrong with that. And I'll just focus on the parts that I have problems with. Not, again, it doesn't mean that I have a beef with this person or that I feel that they're completely wrong. It's just that I want to focus on the actual feedback and the response, rather than basically steal their video and react to it. So let's get started, shall we?
Hello everyone. I want to talk to you a little bit today about sword and shield fighting. The type of sword that we're going to be demonstrating is a 10th, 11th century Lionheart type of sword.
So he's talking about one of these. It's an arming sword. This particular one is a Hanway reproduction of an 11th century sort of Saxon or Viking style sword. I have no problems with his Lionheart type of sword terminology. We know what he means. What I'm going to have problems with, and why I've highlighted this, is that you're going to see a dramatic change in what he's actually using compared to what he says he's teaching.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a trainer so that during this demonstration I won't damage these bags that I have behind me.
So here's where our first problem comes up. He switched from the earlier sword I mentioned to something more like this. This particular version is another poor Hanway reproduction, but it's a mortuary sword. But basically he switched from an earlier type of sword that's not got a basket hilt, and now he's suddenly switched to a sword that has got a basket hilt. And the way he fights is going to very much, and I've seen from his sparring videos, it very strongly reflects the fact that he has got a basket hilt to protect his hand and his arm.
Is you want to basically keep the shield in front of you and basically attack around the shield. Okay, so the shield stays there, right, and the two arms are working independently.
So here's where our problems are really showing at the moment. So he's got his shield. I mean, there are loads of things he said up to this point which are completely fine. Again, you know, I'm just going to skip over them because there's nothing wrong. It'll take me too long to go over them or just outright steal his stuff. But he brings his arm out to try and demonstrate the cuts and the thrusts, but that's exposing his arm. If you've got the metal cage of a basket hilt like he does to protect your hand, then that's fine. But the problem is when you don't have that and you've got this sort of medieval sword. I mean, you can see if my sword is behind my shield, even if the point is out trying to threaten you, it's safe. As soon as it comes out here past the shield, you can cut this arm and the hand wide open. That's not a good thing. And people following his advice will end up, you know, if it's ranging from some sort of bizarre self-defense or real fight scenario where for some reason you have a sword and a shield, all the way down to just doing some LARP or something. Regardless, these people who follow the advice are going to get hit in the hands a lot, and I really mean a lot.
And I'm going to talk about a couple of basic strikes. And again, as I'm making these shots, you can see how my hands kind of, as I'm putting this striking out, this hand has to compensate, and basically we almost have to come together so that I'm always guarding myself.
No. They don't almost have to come together. They actually have to come together. There are some styles where you can block and cover one area and then strike separately. That's fine. But when you're moving along the same line, like for example I'm just giving a cut straight forward, I don't want my arm just to be out there ready to get chopped open. Either I've covered it so, their sword is around here, I know it's there, I can get my arm out as much as I want, but if they haven't actually bound up my shield yet, I really want to make sure that I've got myself covered, either by covering where I think it will come from, and strike elsewhere, or by literally having them come together. Not almost and kind of do a little bit of adjustment like he's showing. Actually bring them out. And this applies whether you've got a smaller shield or a larger shield, whether it's got a strap or a handle. It doesn't matter. In that scenario where you're bringing your arm forward and you haven't bound up with the opponent using your shield yet, cover yourself just in case and have the shield pretty much almost stuck to your hand.
Is what we call a slot shot, and basically what that shot is, I'm looking to come on this side, okay? I'm just going to come down the inside over here, and again, let me just show you with the shield. And with the shield, that shot's going to look like that, right? And that's going to come down on the inside of the other person's shield, okay?
Okay, so we're back to the same issue again. Trying to go on the outside of the shield. Yes, there is logic, there's a good idea in that going around, if the opponent's right-handed, to their right, so that their shield is basically covering somewhere where you're not, and you're basically around this way, so they've only got their sword to parry with, and it's much more difficult to defend. That's a good idea, but the problem is the way he shows his what he calls slot shot is by going around to the outside. Let me grab a shield. Going around to the outside of your own shield and doing this sort of movement. There are many ways you can go around to your opponent's sword side by moving around offline, actually stepping, quickly rushing around to that side, maybe binding up and then surprising. Or another thing that I saw when I was doing some Highland Taj and sword was actually using your shield to bash into the edge of the opponent's shield, push their sword away, and then cut or thrust, basically by taking their shield out of the way first and then delivering a cut, preferably at the same time, so that they haven't got enough chance to react and use their spare sword. But just doing it like this, again we're back to the same problem. No basket hilt, no hand left after that.
Your thrust into your cut. So if I'm going to make a cut, come back and throw a thrust into it, or basically if I'm going to thrust, I'm going to immediately turn it into a cut. Okay, so it's thrust, and then rotate it into a cut. That can also go from the head.
So I'm not sounding like I'm spending the entire time just wailing on the guy and pretending like he's a complete idiot. I'll just stop and take the time to say that this is actually really good advice. Performing what's called a we in HEMA call it sort of a second intention, where you perform an action but you're not actually, let's say it's a thrust like he said, you're not necessarily intending for that thrust to land and hit the person. Maybe you're thinking I'll thrust, he'll see it coming, and then like you said you can easily just turn it with a rotation of the hand into some sort of cut. And like the advice I gave earlier about keeping your shield around to cover it, if you've got the sword you can still go around the shield. It doesn't stop you from doing a rotation of the hand to suddenly turn the sword into a different thrust or a new cut. So actually this particular bit of advice is really good. Like I said, it's a mixed bag.
So it could be cut, thrust, offside. So that's one more thing I can now throw into the mix and kind of confuse my...
And then the video just suddenly cuts out. It's probably from back in the early days of YouTube, when you had sort of 10 or 15 minute limits on each upload, meaning you'd either have to really shorten your video and just not have it anything longer than that, or you could have a long video but have to divide it into parts. And I think this is one of the older YouTube videos, so it might seem a bit late I'm debunking it, but again, that's the wish and I'm granting it. So yes, that's that for today. I might do something on part 2 of that video, but I want to see how you guys feel first. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time. And remember, just before I finish, remember the whole point behind the Genie part of my name is that if you want something like this sort of video done, or another video on a topic relating to the sorts of topics I can cover, just let me know in the comments, or on my Facebook group, or my Discord server, or anywhere else like that where I can see it, and I'll see what I can do. So, on that note, see you guys later, and have a good day. Also, it's my birthday. I'm 26 now.